There are flashing lights in this video. War Thunder is a game about fighting in various historical, weaponized mechanized means of transportation set in a nightmarish alternative reality in which Russians can build functional vehicles. So functional in fact that it bends the established laws of physics.
How did it bounce a Hess shell?
Developed by Gaijin Entertainment, with the second part of the name being what we would call alive, or calling anything they've made entertainment is like calling my relationship status anything else than imaginary. In this interactive medium you'll find months of painful grind, a convocation of lost neural connections, bullshit physics, dead hamsters, and literal primates. From my experience with this game, I'd personally highly dissuade you from playing, as the damage done to your hypothalamus might be irreversible. I, however, still insist you join me as I incompetently narrate for over 15 minutes in the style of a certain sensory overload-inducing editing enjoyer about a game I have a relationship more complicated than the lore of the hit series Alloy Sprocket. It's been 3 hours. The modular nature of conflict reverberate means that if you are to get shot in any component of your jalopy, it will get damaged and can be broken, thus rendered useless until repaired. Repair times can be pretty long and cumbersome, lasting between a visit to the DMV and the heat death of the universe. During this process, one must remain static, which often ends up being a delayed death sentence. That is, if you even have access to pods, as you might have just researched the set of tracks you chose to bring. That's right, a wrench and a can of carbon dioxide are closely guarded state secrets, accessible only with enough applied violence. At this point I feel like I'm playing fucking Red Alert 3. Whoever designed this system, I wish a very pleasant brick applied directly to fine cranium. Components are not the only thing modeled, as your crew also exists inside of the vehicle, and if enough of them die, so do you. This leads to hilarious phenomena where some violent discard appliances do not need to be damaged. As long as you press space in their general vicinity and kill the crew, it will become a rusting, burning wreck. All shells also have their own damage models, which are for the most part accurate, with one glaring exception in the form of Hess shell, which to this day remains modeled incorrectly, as if it was, it wouldn't have penetration values. Each vehicle has its own assigned tier and BR. Tier is nothing more than an arbitrary barrier for you not to grind out the entire tree with reserves if you are masochistic as things. I did not think that analogy through. Not like you cannot do it, but I personally highly dissuade you from doing so, as it might just be extremely painful seeing how grinding anything in this virtually interactive experience, the way the snail has intended, is already going at its pace just if it was malnourished and going through salt. BR is abbreviation for Baboon Rating, which tells you end the game what other contraptions you can encounter in battle. However, because supposedly queue times would be too long, you need to take into account that you can and will encounter things up to 1 BR higher or lower of your chosen methods of vehicular manslaughter's highest BR. Now, Baboon Rating is entirely arbitrary, and as a consequence, your tiger will be facing this monstrosity. It's definitely fair and definitely fun if you are to believe the lies of the snail. And your suffering doesn't end there, as everything has repair costs and its own experience silver line multiplier, and usually you will not be making your money back. Worry not, the game will always rub into your face that the solution to this predicament of yours couldn't be simpler, and that would be to pay up, for the snail craves that coin, and thou shalt provide. Greetings, it is I, Star, and today I'll show you how to decorate your instruments of hastened forceful disassembly by placing random branches your crew found by the side of the road, turning it into 43rd President of the United States. Unfortunately, due to European tree shortage of 1945, a jerrycan is easier to find than a stick with leaves, so I just used those as makeshift reactive armor. It is also possible to put graffiti on the exterior of your oversized firearm hauler, so naturally I put an anime girl in such a way it either makes another decoy spell as, points at the barrel, or both. The game is split into 3 main modes, each one having 3 sub-modes. Arcade is for people who share the attention span with their pet goldfish that died 1 day after its acquisition due to malnutrition. The only exception being Naval Arcade, as any other naval mode might be as well as enjoyable as watching paint dry. Realistic is deceptive, as I'm pretty certain that during interwar period they didn't have such marvels of technology as view of your own vehicle in third person. It is, however, the mode that most play. As for Simulator, why the fuck would you play Simulator? In terms of sub-modes, your choices are Air, Land with Air, and Naval, also with Air, which people play purely out of spite towards wargaming. Land is all about recreating the Battle of Kursk, except everywhere but Kursk itself. This game mode allows you to call in air support in the form of any plane of your choosing. However, here's the catch. You pilot the bird, meaning that if you are in the air, you are hopefully not on the ground. In that situation, it is not recommended to roleplay as Japanese late World War II pilots, for aircraft exist on a different plane of existence to everything but bullets, thus being incapable of damaging anything else other than an aircraft by kinetic energy. You might also find that the moment you enter air, you also enter a predicament known as inability to play the objective. Ground maps have been designed by a 19th century computer as their sightlines exist in a binary system of either being longer than this word, I'm not reading that, or virtually non-existent, which contributes to changing the genre of the game. I lied. This game is not about driving cool vehicles, it's about seeing how resistant you are to sudden, violent changes in your environment, such as a 1,000-pound bomb politely knocking on the roof of your tank. On higher BLs you can also encounter... Hold on, what's this sound? Oh fuck. Excuse me sir, have you been ordering a nuke? Is it my delivery? Wrong, it's the Jonah. Then why are you delivering? This will affect the trout population. Air is either a constant clusterfuck or a screensaver, depending not on the game mode, but on your proximity to the significant contact and how high your BR is. Because at certain BR, planes become so fast that turning is no longer a reliable option, and you will rely on missiles. This, as you may expect, makes the experience both faster and more annoying to the point of transcending back into being dull. This mythical point is the moment at which the only thing you can encounter are jets. And if you want to play those, play Ace Combat or DCS instead, or you could just play props. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Naval is divided into Blue Water and Coastal ships, both of which can see each other in battle. I guess Gaijin didn't learn from Millennium Challenge 2002. It is only to be played in arcade mode, unless your lineup consists only of Blue Water ships and aircraft. I wish I could touch up on the simulator variant. Unfortunately, I do not have the life expectancy of a Greenland shark. I'm gonna be honest with you, Chief. I am not waiting an hour to play for like 10 pictoseconds. The objective in all of the modes is the same. Kill. Or play the map objective. The game literally screams at you what the objective is, so if you still don't know, I'm surprised you've come this far in life. Having said that, it's time for us to move to the fun part of the video. Hostility Rumble gives you a plethora of nations to choose from, each having its own menagerie of munition shipping apparatus, starting from the ones that should not exist up to straight up fiction. United States is the nation I refuse to play out of principle. That's why none of the footage you see as of the moment is mine, and thus I do not feel responsible to explain why any of the vehicles look the way they do. Due to several non-insignificant nuclear incidents, as well as the brilliant decision to use a certain element to enrich the gasoline, average American frontal lobe is so underdeveloped that it cannot perform such a basic action as aiming, which led to the 50 cal being the only machine gun with a modal shockwave, meaning you can die to a 50 without it even hitting you. Americans in general are on some bullshit, so if you like playing them, that's okay. I heard hell is a fun time too. Germany is a nation plagued almost exclusively by verbal brainlets with the average intelligence of a pebble on methamphetamine, which doesn't say much as Rock's location does not affect its mental capacity. This causes German Panzerkampfwaffles to underperform and as a result being constantly buffed to be able to counter the average player's negative amount of synapses. The prime example being the Tiger, which is way below the BR at which it should be, yet the average Tiger player is bestowed with enough ability predicaments to be able to die in one shot from a random BT-7 that managed to circle around it. But Star, I can hear your thoughts and also read the script. That's a Königstiger. It's the... Yes, I know, this makes it worse, not better. Here's the simulation done in the lobby, CISO rating. German air tree has more in common with the Habsburg family tree rather than an actual tree, as half the aircraft you'll be researching are either Bf-109s, FW-190s or Ju-87s. At least the latter has the PTSD-inducing siren. Sojusz Sowieckich Socjalistycznych Republik has interesting vehicles that are, for certain reasons, entirely historically inaccurate, mainly because Gaijin forgot about the quality of Soviet steel. This in turn causes their tanks to be capable of fighting God, and for the game to diverge into the realm of historical fiction, where Homo Sovieticus should be able to take over the entire world by 1940, but somehow didn't. As to aviation, the performance of Russian aircraft is about as accurate, for they too are subject to plot armor. Greetings, it is I, Star, today we're speedrunning 7 Stages of Grief. This is no ordinary bomb, this is a 5-ton exclusive to the PE-8. Your location is irrelevant. The bomb's location is irrelevant. No matter what you are, no matter what you're doing, it will find you, and it will reduce you to subatomic particles. The British have decided that tanks are cringe, and thus they don't really know how to build one. You would think that the nation that invented the tank would be good at building them, but I guess not. Don't get me wrong, British tanks aren't terrible, but they aren't exactly good either. Fortunately, they seem to fare quite a bit better in air, with Spitfires being so agile you'd need to be an admiral to fly them. And speaking of agile, the Zero and the Hayabusa are RSI-inducing. Oh, I didn't mean playing them, I meant playing against them. They turn faster than you, they retain energy better than you, and don't get me started on the Raiden. I called Americans bullshit earlier, but that's merely because they are idiot-proof. The Japanese, however, are not. Unlike Americans, they don't have an entire Pentagon's budget worth of ammo, so you better aim that shit. What I'm trying to say is, those planes are great. My favorite's gotta be this one, because no one knows how to fly it, including myself. The tanks, however... excuse me, that's just a tractor with a naval cannon strapped to it? That's right, the Japanese don't know how to build tanks either. They really are just Asian Britain. 80% of Chinese tech trees just recycle vehicles from other nations, so I'm just not gonna repeat myself and move on. Italy is objectively the best nation in the game. I am definitely not biased, due to its high volume and variety of automobiles. I always wanted to know how it is to drive a Toyota Hilux in the middle of African desert. Italians in general like building stupid shit, like this plane, with 102mm guns strapped to it. Yes, this was a real thing. Some say God punished the Romans by turning them into Italians. I say it's an improvement. The French don't know how to build a functioning society, and same goes for tanks. What? My brother in Christ, this is just a tracked train. This is the case at least early on. Beatings will continue until design improves, and since I can't make any jokes about the French air tree, I'll just move on. So far, each nation introduced us to a new concept. Words like fiction and incompetence come to mind. Well, the Swedes' concept is ingenuity. This has more pen than I have chromosomes. This is also why their aircraft are a bit wacko. However, my only experience with them is turning them into fireworks. Israel does not exist. Not until 3.3 BR, where it gets a plane, or in Ground 6.0, where it gets a Reserve M51, which means I get to respawn in it. Third time's the charm, as they say. Oh. This is the part which might rustle the largest amount of jimmies and incur upon myself the wrath of the Redditoids. Most players are inept macaques with malfunctioning frontal cortexes. That is why you do not help allies, you use them. Use them as bait, use them as cover, use them as a silver line farm, but unless proven otherwise, assume every player is a 2-line of code bot. These are the type of people who team kill you for having fun. I'm not saying be an asshole on purpose. I'm just saying you're gonna encounter them. And I'm one of them. Don't enable me. Combat Raw is a terrible game, neither worth your time or money, and yet I have, unfortunately, fallen victim to the Stockholm Syndrome. It's a type of entertainment that I occasionally boot up only to regret it 4 hours later, where it's actually fun to watch, but unless very specific circumstances are met, it's asinine to play. Developers of this game do not try to change this either, as an annoying piece of online interactive entertainment is far more profitable than an enjoyable one, because you might just give in and purchase the fun. This too has deceived me and led me to make some questionable financial decisions. So do yourself a solid and avoid this game unless you really like suffering. I'd like to apologize for the long delay between videos, as I've been preoccupied with the real world, as well as the fact that the mere action of writing this script caused me instantaneous writer's block. I needed to develop schizophrenia to make this video in any way interesting, and
it's getting worse.
I tremendously appreciate the work of Thunder, Tem and Scare for helping me with this video, including but not limited to script edits and footage, as well as the schizophrenic construct of the funny palm man himself, which in my mind has spontaneously developed in the process of me trying to play into my own meta joke of copying others. Oh, and Max also played an important advisory role in creating this video. I am greatly humbled by your assistance. Farewell.